Hello! So today we are going to learn our final subset of present tense verbs, the final sort of category of verbs, which is the third conjugation I-O verbs. We recently learned I stem third declension nouns, and so this is going to look at a sort of similar topic, but for third conjugation verbs. All right? So to begin with, we're going to look at some principal parts. All right, how do we know that something is a third conjugation I-O verb? And when we see here the principal parts, we have a third conjugation example, rego, regere, rexi, rectus, just a regular third conjugation verb. And in the fourth conjugation, we remember how we tell that this is fourth conjugation. So looking at these real quick, we just want to do a little retrieval practice. How am I going to know that rego is third conjugation and audio is fourth conjugation? Take a second and I'm going to show you. Yeah, we tell by that second principal part. ERE with a weak E here, IRE with a macron here. So that was how we told what conjugation they're from. And so when we look at this, oh, that's a typo. When we look at this third conjugation IO example, we're going to see a new kind of variety of verb in the Chapter 10 vocab on page 167 of your textbook. And we see this word capio, capere, capi, captus. It has the IO, which we saw with audio and skio and sentio for fourth conjugation verbs. But then we go to the second principal part, and we have that weak E returning. So, which reminds us of rego, regere, and other third conjugation verbs, right? So it's kind of a combo. And the reason why we call them third conjugation I-O is because we have the ERE, which tells us it's third conjugation, but then we have the I-O, which tells us that we're going to have these I's popping up. In the same way with I stem nouns, there were a couple forms where you just were sticking in an I. All right, so before we actually look at these third conjugation forms, let us look at some review. So here's the third conjugation and the fourth conjugation. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's go back here. Quickly, keeping this in mind, go to page 167 of your textbook and find two more examples of I-O verbs and write them down in your notebook. What are the two other examples of I-O third conjugation verbs? Okay? Go into your textbook and look them up. All right. Here we go. Now, third conjugation and fourth conjugation. Let us begin. Looking at these, a quick retrieval on where are the differences between the present tense active forms of the third conjugation and the fourth conjugation. Pause the video and try and come up with these differences on your own. Okay? So I've highlighted them. Rego versus audio, right? We saw in that first person singular, there was an I popped in the fourth conjugation. Then we saw the only actual really meaningful difference was in the third plural, regunt, right, as opposed to audiunt, where we saw the I pop in. The other thing to note, for pronunciation reasons, are that the I's in all but these third plural forms became strong, became long. Audio, audis, audimus, auditis, as opposed to rego, regis, regit, regimus, regitis. Regimus, audimus, right? So that macron piece was also slightly different. But in terms of spelling, the only differences were the first person singular and the third person plural. Okay, now let's look at the passives. Same thing as before, pause the video and try and identify where are we seeing differences in the passive forms of the third and fourth conjugation. And as I did before, pay attention to those macrons. Pause the video, and then I'm going to describe it. All right, here we go. We see regor versus audior. Again, the I's pop up in the same places, right? You're not going to have an extra I when there's already an I in the verb, regimor, regimini, regitor. But when we don't have when we have a new vowel besides an I in there, we added in an I in the fourth conjugation. Okay, so regor as opposed to audior, and reguntor as opposed to audiuntor. The other big one was the second person singular, right? That was one that we really wanted to highlight. and it's tricky. It's really weird in the third conjugation. You might not expect to see the E suddenly pop up, but it's that one form that you just kind of have to memorize, the tricksy second person singular. So ERIS becomes IRIS in the fourth conjugation. Remember, so this is all third and fourth, third and fourth. At some point you're going to ask me, I thought that this was called the, I'm having a little trouble here. Here we go. I thought this was about the third IO conjugation, and we're about to dive into that now, okay? So we recalled the differences between the third conjugation and the fourth conjugation. Now let's look at the third IO. Looking at these forms, try and highlight which forms look like the third conjugation. Or better yet, let's say which of these forms look like the fourth conjugation, right? Because we call it third IO, so it's third conjugation, but some of these forms are actually going to look like the fourth. So take a moment, pause the video when you're ready, and here we go. So we see capio and capiant, those I's are creeping back in. And in the passive, we see capior and capiantur, those I's are creeping back in. So the red are going to be the forms that remind us of the fourth conjugation. But we still have to remember that this is a third conjugation verb at heart, even with that IO component. So we notice that those macrons that I mentioned, right, are not here. It's capes, capit, capimus, capitis, as opposed to audis, audimus, auditis. And the other key one to remember is that we don't have caperis is like all other third conjugation verbs. It's ERIS instead of like in the fourth conjugation when you had I with a macron. All right. The other way in which capio capere is going to be similar to the third conjugation is that the infinitive to capture will be capere, just like the second principal part still. So that's like the third conjugation. And if we remember, the passive, because this is a weak E, in order to make the passive infinitive, when that strong I comes along, the whole ERE drops off, and to say to be captured is copy. So copy is the passive infinitive, and capere is the active infinitive. All right, so I hope this was helpful, and use this information now. Maybe take a second to retrieve what the differences are between a third IO verb and a regular third conjugation verb, and then go and try your hand at the Google Forms quiz posted on the portal page. Okay? Have a great rest of your night.